The French Revolution. The French Revolution was a time of social and political upheaval in France that began in 1789 and ended in 1799. Inspired by liberal and radical ideas, its overthrow of the monarchy influenced the decline of absolute monarchies in other parts of Europe. The French involvement in the American Revolution of 1776 was a costly affair that left the country in a state of near bankruptcy. King Louis's extravagant spending also did not help matters. Empty royal coffers, poor harvests and rise in food prices had created feelings of unrest among the poor rural and urban populace. The matter was further worsened by the imposition of taxes that provided no relief. As a result, rioting, looting and general strikes became the norm. Causes of the French Revolution. Social. The social conditions in France in the late 18th century were extremely unequal and exploitative. The social conditions in France in the late 18th century were extremely unequal and exploitative. They were exempt from payment of taxes to the state. On the other hand, the third estate that consisted of peasants and workers formed the majority of the population. They were burdened with excessive taxes with no political and social rights. Economic. As a result of numerous wars waged by Louis XVI, the state coffers were empty. The situation was made even more complex by France's involvement in the American War of Independence and the faulty system of taxation. While the privileged classes were excused from paying taxes, the third estate was more and more burdened with them. Political. The Bourbon King of France, Louis XVI, was an extremely autocratic and weak-willed king who led a life of obscene luxury. This led to a lot of disenchantment among the masses who then were leading life of extreme poverty and widespread hunger. Intellectual. The 18th century was marked by a conscious refusal by French thinkers of the divine rights theory. Philosophers like Rousseau rejected the paradigm of absolute monarchy. They promulgated the doctrine of equality of man and sovereignty of people. The meeting of the Estates General. The Estates General was an assembly that represented the French nobility, clergy and the middle class. The non-aristocratic members outnumbered the aristocrats in terms of population. Yet, they could be outvoted by the other two bodies. The Third Estate mobilized the support of equal voting rights, which would be on the basis of head and not by status. They moved to an indoor tennis court, where they pledged not to separate, until they had given France a constitution. This became known as the Tennis Court Oath. The National Assembly was set up by the Third Estate as a response on 17 June 1789. The fall of the Bastille, a symbol of power and the monarchy's dictatorial rule, it is considered by some as the start of the French Revolution. People stormed towards the Bastille fortress on July 14, 1789, to secure gunpowder and weapons. This resulted in King Louis XVI withdrawing the royal troops from the French capital. Due to the significance of the storming of the Bastille, July 14 is celebrated as the National Day of France. It is known as Bastille Day in English. On 26 August 1789, the National Assembly published the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. It is a charter of human liberties, containing the principles that inspired the French Revolution. On 21st of September 1792, the monarchy was abolished and France was declared a republic. King Louis XVI was charged with treason and found guilty on 15th of January 1793. On January 21st, he was driven through the streets of Paris, to a guillotine and decapitated. Queen Marie Antoinette was also found guilty of numerous crimes on October 16th and guillotined the same day. In the name of ridding the nation of the enemies of the revolution, an estimated 5 lakh suspects were arrested, 17,000 were officially executed and 25,000 died in summary executions. This period is known as the Reign of Terror. After this, the Directory gained power but was ousted soon by the 3 consuls, the famous military leader Napoleon Bonaparte. This coup